That's what I was doing, man. So in the yesterday session, we discussed about 10 types of selectors. So now we are going to discuss about the remaining selectors along with some other topics. So how many people gone through the topic of positions? What about remaining people? I gave you few tasks, right? So why you didn't complete it? Is it that much hard to understand? I just told you to just go through the concept. Positions. I given 3 topics, model box. How many of you gone through model box? How many of you gone through the flex and grid? Remaining people, what you people are doing? Tell me, madam, what is that much busy? Are busy, Amra? Huh? Kana, pina, sona. Weekend లోనే కాదు వీక్ డేస్ లో కూడా అదే చేస్తున్నారా? Online people, how many people know these concepts? Jyotrajan, Nikhil, Manjot, V Ravi, Manikanta. How many people gone through these concepts? Positions, model box, and flex and grid.
I did not.
Okay, cool. May I know the reason, madam? Manjot.
Yeah, I was working 2 jobs since last 3 days, so I did not have time.
Cool. So what about remaining people? Is anybody is working here? No, right? Everybody are staying in PG. That's what your people are doing, right? Or anybody have any other works to do? Legal or illegal, anything? Tell me, I'll give privilege of for you people. You wish, do whatever you want to do. So in today's session, we'll be going to discuss about first pseudo classes we'll discuss, okay? So pseudo classes in the sense, so all the 10 types of selectors is one part of selection and these 2 selectors will come into a different part. Why in the sense, till now we are selecting only the element, okay? So whatever the element is there, we are just selecting that, whether it's a P tag, whether heading tag, div tag. Madam. Okay, heading tag or whatever the tag it may be, we are directly selecting the tag. But coming to pseudo classes and pseudo selectors, it defines the selecting the layers of that element or also selecting the state of that element. What is meant by a state? For example, just imagine, as soon as when you click on a link, what happens? It will redirect if there is some redirection. So as soon as you put cursor pointer on the link button, what it will happen? It will change the color, right? It will indicate it is a link as soon as you put mouse pointer on it. For example, if I just if I click on it, what happening? Is it getting highlighted or not? Okay, so when I click it, it was getting changed, right? So here, these are called as the sum of the states. In the same way, when you go into the web application, the click state maybe the hover state, there are different types of states that we have in HTML. Okay, sorry, in CSS. So some of those states are, if you go with, for example, if I go with, where is our element? There is no file open. Let me open. It was open here. Okay. So if you see here, if I go to the developer tool, so for every element, I can have different types of states. As you can see here, the states like active, focus within, target, hover, visited, focus, visible, like that. We have different types of states. Okay, these are not the only states that we have. So what the states will mention? Okay, for example, this is the paragraph, right? What is the color it have? Black. So I want to give like whenever the user hovers on it, hover in the sense when the user puts a cursor point on it, as you see, the pointer is automatically changed, right? The pointer changed to selector type. Got it? So now I want to select that only. Whenever user hovers on this element, I want to change the color to red. Okay. So let me write. Let me add. Color. Green again. Let's check whether it's working or not. Okay. So if you see here, by default, I have, let me remove this color. So by default, I have which color? Black color. But whenever users points on it, which color it is converting? Green. So however, we are just dealing with this state, particular hover state. In the same way, we are going to deal with remaining other states also. What are the rest other states? Like click maybe, as you can see here, active. What is mean by active? For example, did you ever thought that, for example, you are in the home page of Amazon, okay? When you click on mobile selection, mobile link, so it will be highlighted in yellow color, right? Until unless you're there on the mobile section. When you go with the like example TV section, if you click on TVs, okay, that section will be highlighted. How it is possible? Because here the browser is taking the action where you are, okay? So for each and every active, for example, what I'll write based on the active, when the user clicks on a particular button and he became successfully redirected to that page, okay, whether it is home page, contact page, or any page it may be. If he's redirected successfully, then what I need to do, I need to pick that active state and I need to showcase it by using CSS. So that's what I'm doing. So what I can do, whenever I have a, for example, let me go with some anchor tag. Yeah. Pictures. And now let me write different states for this particular anchor element. So first stage will be on hover. So I want to convert color to Manjot. Can you please put your mic on mute, please? All right. So next, A on active. Active state. I want to change color to green. Okay. So A on visited, or else okay. Color I want to change to. Give me a color. Okay, I got it. So Hessian blue. So I have given three states here. One is hover, one is active, one is focus. By default, you know, always anchor tag will be in the blue color. Okay, with a underline. So if you want to remove this, what you need to do? So you can remove its color default as usual. By using the color only, we can make it changes. Color you can give whatever you want. Color black I'll give. And also I want to remove that underline. So whenever you want to give or remove any underline, there is a property called text decoration. Okay. So text decoration is a property which will allow us to give by default underline or to remove or to add. So I already have an underline. So I want to remove. So I don't want any text decoration. So when I give none, so what happened? Automatically my element got removed. By default, anchor tag will have a, so whenever user, okay, I given black here only, so it will not work out. Okay, let it be blue for now. So by default, anchor tag will have one color. It will be whenever you hover on it, it will become dark blue. But now whatever the state we given, so if you see, whenever I hover on it, it is converting into red color. If I click and hold on it, so if you see, that is the focus state. So focus state, what is nothing but, for example, now if you see, I have a cursor or not, right? It is blinking, where even though I was moving my pointer out of that search box also, still my cursor is blinking there, right? Whenever I click on outside, what happened? Immediately my search box got closed. So this is nothing but the focus state, nothing but focusing on a particular element. So whenever I long click on this element, what it means? It means that I was focusing on it, right? So that's why whatever the color we given. So if you see here, any property that you give, CSS generally to say, whatever the CSS you give to this element, it will be directly visible in the developer tools or not. So whether you given which color you given that and all. For example, if you see for this paragraph, if we have any CSS, only universal C, I'm not given any properties. Which one we have? Is this we have? No. Yeah. See this. I have a property. I got it directly. But for this element, I given multiple properties, right? If you see here, I given 3 selectors. But is these are visible here? If you let me close this, see, is these are visible? Even though if I select this element, I'm not getting any of those selectors. Why? Because as I already mentioned, these selectors, pseudo classes and pseudo elements are not dealing with the direct element. It is dealing with its states. So that's why this will be not directly visible. If you want to check, for example, I have this anchor tag. I want to check what are the properties that people have given, the developer has given for different states. What I need to do? I need to go to this section and I need to enable it. Enable this, for example, I want to know what CSS is given on hover state. So I selected this anchor tag and I open it, and when I click on hover, if you see now, I given hover color red, right? So when I click on active, if you see, you got one more property, green I given. So in the same way, when I click focus, I given act as blue, whatever it may be. I will change this color to pink or something. Okay, because it's not visible. So see, if you see, I was able to see this color. But if you see, here the color is by default is coming. But when it should come only in a particular state, right? Why? Because whenever you check this box, it not only gives you the properties here, it also applies that properties to the particular element directly. So if you remove this focus, see, I will lose that color. So I'm getting the active color, right? Because active is the second element, I guess we are selected, right? See, now I'm getting red color because that is the one only checked. If I remove that also, there is no color. But now if you see on hover, I was getting red color. So when I click, if the element is successfully redirect to any particular redirection, and if I was staying in that particular section, in such cases, it is called as the active state. But it is not an active state now because it doesn't went where it was redirected. I don't have given any redirection. I just put a hashtag there, right? So that is why I was not getting green color, but I was getting the pink color. Why? Because on click, long press I did. So it was in the focus state. So for input fields, it will be the focus state. Now I can see wherever I may move my cursor, still I was in the focus state. I can type, I can do anything I can do here. Because my pointer, even though it is out of the box, still when I clicked it first time, it went in the focus state and still it is in the focus state. When it will come out of the focus state? Only when the user clicks anywhere outside of that input. For example, again, if I click input, within the input, there is no use. But if you see, as soon as I click on outside, automatically I lost the focus, right? So this is how my states will work. So by default, we may select the elements, but if I want to do any changes, like whenever the user clicks on that input, I want to add the border. So let me do that. For example, okay, let us create a input only. I don't want to mess with that Google one. Okay. We have a input here, right? So now what I need to do is whenever user hovers on it, I want to increase its width. Okay. Whenever user focuses on it, I need to change the color or whatever I have. Okay. Now let's see what is the default properties I have. Default is, this is how default will be. So now let us write some properties to it. States input, right? Whenever user hovers on it, I want to change border to px solid red. Whenever input has focus, I want to change color to green and border to px solid green. Okay, so let's 2 enough. Let's check with this. Also, whenever users on input, let us make few more properties we'll add, like height of 40 px, width of 100 px. So let's copy this and make it here. Height of 80 px, width of 200 px, and font size of 30 px. Okay. So now let's get back here. Okay, 100 px is 2 legs. Let us make it 300. So if you see, I have an input. Now, whenever I hover on it, what happening? Immediately my input box width and height got changed, right? So now when I click on it, what is the state now? Focus state. So automatically whatever the properties I given on focus state, I'm getting that. So if you see, I was also getting the green color. Instead of blue color, I was getting green color, right? So why? Because I given like whenever user focus this input box, I want to apply color, border, height and width and something else. So if I increase the font size, if you see, is it increasing or not? So like this, whenever you want to deal with a particular state, when that is where you'll use this active, focus, visible and all. So visited in the sense, so for example, whenever you give a proper URL and the user clicked on it and successfully redirected to that, okay, not staying on the same page. For example, there are two ways of redirection. One is staying on the same page but redirecting, like for example, home, contact, this and all. Okay, the URL is not changing, but you are just changing from tab to tab. But for example, whenever use, for example, there will be links in the mails. Okay, if you see Gmail, if you check, whenever you click on any mail, or else take a Chrome as an example. For example, you search for the best institute in Bangalore. So you got 10 results, or for example, if you imagine, whenever you visit the first link, next time whenever you search the same thing, that color, that particular link whichever you open will be in the blue color, not in black color. Why? It is mentioning you that you already visited this site. Got it? So where, what, how we are doing that? Just by using this simple CSS state, that is nothing but visited. So it mentioned that, for example, you have 10 links. Whenever user clicks and go to that link, and when he come back, that color, when that in that cases, my color will be color or whatever the properties you want to apply. You can apply. Why? Because it is picking the state that the user is already successfully redirected using this particular link. If you want to take a basic example, Google is the best example. Whenever you search for something, you just try once. If you have 10 links, 10 results, if you get, if you open 3 results, whenever you search back again with the same mail, you're using that mail, that links will be in blue color because it mentions that you already visited that site. Got it? So that is how my visited will work. So focus visible, nothing but whenever the user, by default, even the inputs have a box shadow, focus visible. That means focus visible are two different types. Focus within, that means, for example, I was just focusing the element, that is the focus state. Focus within in the sense, I would, for example, take input boxes are the only way, focus within. So within the box, I was focusing my elements, right? So like that, we have each and every target is also one of the attributes. So whenever, okay, where we'll use this target, it's an attribute. Okay, which particular scenario we get, I'll let you know, because I was not getting a particular scenario where you'll get target. Okay, like this, each and every state, okay, not only these states, we have multiple hundreds of states we'll have, but these are the major states that we'll use usually, and we have the direct access from the through developer tools. Okay, so whenever you want to check any state, sometimes what happens, automatic redirections and all this happens. When you check for directly, you may not be visible what is the particular code is getting applied. In such case, you first unit, what you need to do, select that element and you need to go to that particular states. On each state, you need to check what code is given for each state. Got it? So these are nothing but pseudo classes. So pseudo class is not only about states, it also gives us the privilege of selecting the element based on the index. So yesterday we discussed that I may select a particular classroom, or I may select a particular row in the classroom, or I may select a particular person in that row, right? Position. So these can be done by using this pseudo classes only. For example, do we have any UL here? Okay, UL is there. I don't want to use that. Let us create one more UL. Okay. So UL. And then okay, good. So let me add some. Another song. Is anybody getting sleep? Hmm? It's okay, tell me, no issues. Okay, so I given a class called pseudo, right? So what I'll do, I'll use a dissonant selector. Okay, what is the class name? Pseudo. So align color of green. So if you see, I'm getting green color. Now I want to select this particular element, not any other element. So what I need to do, I need to select only the first one. So for that, what I can do, that is where I can use a pseudo class, nothing but if you see these many pseudo classes I can get. So I don't want to go all this first one. So we can get access it by using first child. It's a child actually, not the first element. It's a child for the UL. So if you see, I was getting only to the first child. So if you want to get to the last one, what you will do? Last child. So what if you want to get in between? You will use the nth child. Yeah. Nth child of whichever the particular child you want to select. I want to select third one. Yeah. So now if you see, I given nth child of 3. So now I'm going to be select only the third one. Got it? So they, for example, here I have a static number, like I have only 5 elements. I can select the 3 or 4, whatever it may be. For example, just imagine I need to give a condition like when I have 100 documents, by default I don't have 100 documents. It will come dynamically. Sometimes it will be 10, sometimes it will be 20. I want to give some selection like based on particular count. If the count is 25, then only I need to apply particular CSS or something. So how you will do that? So that is where this nth rules comes into the picture. Okay. So what is your today's first task is? What is the date today? 12, right? 1/09. So check all the nth type rules. Okay. So check all the nth type rules. Okay, how it is working. Because nth type will give you many privileges of accessing the elements. Okay. So this is one type of selection of pseudo classes. So apart not only this, we have many other pseudo classes comes in the pseudo classes like first shade, last shade, last of type. Even by using the type also we can select type. Also we can like marker. What we have in range. There are many more than 20. More than 20 states you will get. Okay, in the horse classes. So not only states, also check this also. So not only wait, along with note down all the nth type rules and pseudo states. Okay, got the difference between states and the nth rules. Okay, so try to check all this. So this is what about pseudo classes. Don't get confused between pseudo selectors and pseudo classes. Okay, there are two types of pseudo selectors in the selectors only. Okay, one is pseudo classes, one more is pseudo elements or pseudo selectors, we call them as. Okay, so now before going to that pseudo selectors, we'll go with one more topic called as positions. Okay, so what I'll do, let me do one thing. Yeah. Where is the draw option? Okay, so let me imagine this. Okay, just imagine it as a one wall. Okay, so now tell me, if it is a wall, which one is the front face and which one is the back face? Red one is the front face, green one is the back face. So for example, if you take any wall, what will be the things we'll have on a wall? Not only visible one, from scratch to until you see a wall with a proper painting, what are you getting there? First one, brick stage, right? You construct by using bricks and cement. On that you will put putty, white putty or something you will put, layer to make it smooth. On top of it, what you will do? Paint, but which is visible to the end user. So remaining two will be hidden. Does it mean that it is not there? No, right? It was there, but it was getting what we say overridden by the top layer. It is just how we can say, what is that word here? Domination. It is just dominating the remaining two layers. It is just hiding them. In the same way, whenever users creates any element, okay, so each and every element have a position that is nothing but static position. Okay, so positions are of, there are multiple types of positions. So if you Okay. 5 types of positions will get. First one will be static, or also it is also called as the default position of an element. Okay, default. Second one will be relative. Third one will be absolute. Fourth one will be fixed. Fifth one will be sticky. Okay, so these are the 5 types of positions that you can assign to any element. So leave about that element tag, whatever the tag it may be, h1, h2, div, section, any tag it may be, you can apply any of these 5 positions, any one of these 5 positions at that, but you can't apply all the 5 at a time. I'm also mentioning that any one only will apply, but default for every element you create, whether block element or inline element, whether flex element, grid, any element, what is the position it will have? Static. So that is nothing but, for example, this red layer is what called as a static. Just imagine in that way, the facing one. So now let me create a new file. Save it as emissions.html. Yeah. So now let me create a div. Okay. Static. Yeah. Static. Relative. Absolute. Fixed. And what is it? Sticky. I given 5 classes. Static. Okay. I have 5 different elements now. So let us write it CSS. The first one is parent, right? So border of solid red. So, so border of give me colors quickly, one by one. Be ready with 3 different colors. Give me a color. Give me a color. Huh? No, yellow is too light. It will not be visible. Any other color? Hmm? Purple already be violet is given. Similar color. Give a different color. Useless of asking you people. Already violet is there next before element. Blue, this and all comes under violet. Blue is the parents only, right? Childs and parents. What guys? At least tell a good color now. Green. Okay. Yellow is different, greenish yellow is different, man. Don't think that he's giving again green. Okay, yellow. Yellow is too light. Okay, it will be not visible for borders. So, okay. Yeah. For example, just imagine I have 5 elements now. Okay. So now if you see, I created 5 using div only. But am I facing any difference here? Each one is occupying full length. Why? Because it is a block level element. So I created 5 elements. Now, for example, what is the basic and what is the major advantage of using position is, so the moving of elements. Okay. So if you take an example of any website, for example, let me give you. Okay. I'll use this only. Now, if you see, already there is an element here. On top of it, what I did, I just created 3 elements. Okay, I may keep these elements from here also. But what I thought is, okay, I want to make it more look good. So what I did, I just overlapped one-on-one element. Okay. In the same way, there are many places I did in the same way. Okay. For example, if you see here, this one, whichever the tag is there, the tag we create, when we create these 3 should be in a single line. But I made it in the top and made it fixed here. Okay. At the same way, if you see the element is turned and sitting at the right corner. Here there is a bottom one is fixed. So how we did this and all? By using position only. By using position only, I made this all fixed in that way. Okay. It was good to see at your side after so many days. I'm the sole developer for this website, you know. Is it good? Thank you. Okay, cool. Okay, so what is the major advantage of using position? It is just giving us the privilege of moving our element wherever we need it. By default of place only, I don't want it to be in that place. I want to move it some aside because we are humans. We don't want peace. Okay, we want that element to be keep somewhere else. So what I did, so to do that, that is where my position property give that privilege. But even in that also, there are few different scenarios how each position will work. So now let's start with the position of static. So what I'll do, let me go to the static. So if you see, there is one more CSS rule you can see here. So which is introduced recently, nothing but nested CSS. So you know how descendant selector will work. Parent element, space, child, space, grandchild, space, sub-grandchild. Like that you can give and select. Instead of doing in the line way, you can give a parent, and within the parent you can give parent properties, and you can give child also. Any selector it may be, you can use that selector, and within that also if you have any choice you can write it. Before it was, this type of writing was accessible only in the lesson SCSS. Okay, but now we got this privilege even in the CSS. So due to this privilege, now we can even write this nested type of CSS, which will help us to reduce the lines again and again, writing the parent child, parent child. Instead of what we can do, I can declare parent one time, right? So after declaring the parent, child, I can write how many I want to. Got it? So Now let's go with the static. So now let me give, I want to move it to the little down and right. So how many directions we have? What are the four directions? Top, bottom, left, right. Is anybody able to move any in a different direction? No, right? So these are the four directions that we have: top, bottom, left, right. So I want to move to the bottom first. So directly I have the properties top, bottom, left, right in CSS. Bottom I'll give 10 px and right I'll give 10 px. So now if you see, is there any change? Why? Because just imagine this is a wall. Okay. So all my elements whichever I was creating are on the same face. They are not in the front, they are not in the backward. All are there in a same face. For example, if I have this wall here, so if I want to move it, is it possible for me to move up or down? But if I kept something on top of it, like board or TV, anything it may be, is it possible for me to move up and down or not? Right? In the same way here, whichever the elements you create by default, all are in the static, nothing but they're on a single layer. So you can't move them anywhere. Okay. So that is why it's called as a default position, also we call it as. So in when the element is in the default, so always whenever you create element, it will be in default state only. In such state, when that element position will be static. So you can't move that element anywhere. You can't move it up, down, or any directional properties will not work on it because static will be on a particular layer. Got it? For example, let me make it next element position as relative. Okay. Now, if you see, is there any change in my elements? Still same, right? So when I'll get the changes, whenever I start using with the directional properties. What are the directional properties? We'll give the same thing. Let us cut it. Bottom 10 px, right? 10 px. Okay. Relative element. Don't forget about the names. Be sure with the names what I was mentioning. So now we are dealing with relative element. We given position relative and given bottom 10 px and right of 10 px. Now if you see, is my element is moved or not? Let's make it more here. 20 bottom, 20 right. Like for your sake, I'll give a background to it. Background of, what is that color? Orange, huh? Okay. Now if you see, but you may get confused. We given bottom and right? These two properties. Then it should come down, right? Bottom and it should go down. But why it is going up? Because the directional property of relative works in the opposite way. If you are mentioning bottom, you are not telling that to go bottom. It is telling that to start from that particular point. For example, if it is your element, for a relative element, it will be the top 0, it will be the bottom 0, it will be the left 0, and it will be the right 0. So when I mention that top of 10 px, what it will do? It will take a space from that particular 0. That means here to here 10 px it will move down. Okay. When I give in a negative value, what it will do? If I give top minus 10 px, what will happen? It will go upwards. Okay. So when I give top minus 10 px, my element is here. So it will go into negative side. That means it will go to the top side. But by default, relative element positions, top directional properties will work in a opposite way only. When I give top, it doesn't mean that I'm mentioning it to go to the top direction. I was mentioning from that particular point, you move 10 px, space you give to the element. That's what I was mentioning. So that is why when I give top 10 px, sorry, bottom 10 px, from the, here is the bottom point, right? It was just moving 10 px space to the upwards. When I give same thing, if I give 10 px top, it will come downwards. Got it? So in the same way, when I give right 10 px, what happened? It was just creating 10 px from the right 0. Okay. So now if you see, even though I was able to move this element however I want. So let me make it more changes to it in the developer tools. Okay. Why inspect is not open? Okay. So now if you see, for example, let us make its width of 300 px, and okay. So now you are able to see clearly. See what, how if I increase bottom, it is going up, right? So if I increase the right, it is going. Sorry, I was going the negative way. Now got it. So whenever your position is relative, negative values take into that direction, positive values take into the opposite direction. Just remember this in this way. Okay. So whenever I give positive values, it was going in this way. But if you see, my element is moving very freely, but still there is no disturbance in my layout. My layout is getting disturbed? For example, now my element is completely going to the top. That means I was overlapping on top of the other element. That means the static element. So now here there is completely space, right? But why the next element is not getting occupied that particular place? Because if you go here, whenever, as I mentioned you, by default, every element will be in the one particular layer. Now just imagine this green one is the static layer. So the element, the relative that you created, it will push that element into a new layer on top of it. So that is what this red layer now. Okay. But what is the advantage it is doing? For example, here are my 4 elements, right? 5 totally, right? 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the 5 elements that we have, right? So whenever I just made this position relative, what happens? It automatically come out of that layer and stick on the top of the layer in the same position, not in the, for example, this is a layer means it have a starting point, it have a ending point, right? In the same way, new layer also have my, on top of it, I have a starting layer point and end point. But how my relative element will work is it will tell you can move me, but I'm not going to disturb your layout. So if you remove also from whenever you give position relative, immediately it will come out of that layer and it forms in a new layer, and it will be in the new layer in the same position. Okay. So, but still, even though it is came out of its position, it will still hold this position. You may move it here. Okay. You may move this one wherever you want to, like you may move my element here or here anywhere, but still, even though it is not moving in the default layer, it is moving in a new layer. But it is, even though it is moving in a new layer, what happens? It still holds my position in the original layer. It will not delete that position. So due to that, that is the reason my layout is not getting disturbed. The relative element came out of my default layer. It was moving aramse in the new layer, but still it was holding, it was telling, even though I came out of that particular class. For example, just imagine you are in a class of 10 people, a roll number is assigned for you in an exam center. So even though if you came or not, that seat is completely assigned to that person or not. What you will mention? You will just mention that person is absent. He'll be roaming freely everywhere, but still that position is holding for him. Nobody is allowed to sit in that position. The same things doing with the relative. So relative is going to new layer, but still it is holding that position there in the original layer. So that is why it is not affecting my element. Okay. So whenever user is using the position relative, it is not going to create any issues to the particular layout. So that is the advantage of using the, which one? Relative position. Okay. Now let's go with the next one is the absolute. Okay. Now just see carefully. I was just, for the absolute, I'm just giving a position of absolute. Okay. Now if you see, where is my absolute element? For your sake, let me give a background to it. I am just removing background to the relative element. Okay. And also I was removing the positions for time being. So background of violet. Now tell me, where is my absolute element? So my absolute element is visible there, but where is my fixed element? Is it really not there? Then why it is not visible? Because it is backside of my absolute element. If you see here, let me make it. Let me move it, or else let me, this is the fixed element, right? Let me give background of, is it there or not? So if I just delete this absolute and check, is it there on the backside or not? But now if you see what happened here, my layout got disturbed or not? So as my layout got disturbed, that's why my element came here. So just imagine, for example, I have kept 5 bricks one by one. Okay. So whenever when I removing the relative brick, is it affecting the height of that brick? What we kept? Relative element, I'm asking. No. But whenever you pick a absolute element outside, what happens? Automatically that place is getting occupied by the next coming bricks. It's just kicking down the remaining fixed element, and whatever the static element, any element is there, it is occupying that particular empty space there. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
Just please put on pause video.
Continue. So what happens? Immediately, whenever I have 5 bricks arranged one by one, when I remove the relative brick, it is not affecting my bricks. But whenever I remove the absolute, what happening? It's completely deleting its position there. Due to that, that place is empty. Automatically, my next bricks will fall on the before bricks. Same thing happening here. So whenever I give absolute position to any element, okay. So let us go with image. Yeah. So for example, so whenever I give a position absolute, what happened? Same thing happens. The element is coming to a new layer. That's what happened when I give position relative, right? So it coming from default layer to the new layer. But at the same time, it is not holding its position. It was telling, I don't want to stay in the static layer. So I want to create my own layer and I will roam in that particular layer. So you can remove that position. So once this position is removed, automatically it is empty. So what happens? So the next coming element will occupy that place, right? Automatically. So same thing. So next coming element, as it is moved from here to there, the next coming element will move to the that position. That position will be always occupied. So in the HTML, whenever you delete one element, that place will be occupied by the next coming element, that space, right? So now when you see, even though it removed, and it also its width is got reduced here. If you see, it width also got reduced. Simply to say, it just became a inline element now. Whenever you give position absolute, what happened? Along with the width of position of it, it also taking only how much position that you have given. Okay, how much content it have. If it doesn't have any content, automatically it will. Just imagine for inline element, I didn't give any content. Okay, so is it visible in the browser? No, right? So that is what happens with the absolute element also. It all automatically comes out of the static layer, and also the content will be how much content is there, that much width only it will take. And also there is a one more issue happens with the absolute element. So already my layout got disturbed, right? Now let us give directional properties to this element now. Okay, same way how we given in the previous. So absolute, right? Same for however what we give before, top of 10px, right? So let me give top 10px and left or right we given, right of 10px. What happened? Where my element is. So now tell me, is it inside of my parent or outside of my parent? Is it clearly visible? So I guess body have a default margin. Let me remove that, then you will be clearly understand. margin body, right? Default body will have a margin. Don't forget this, okay? Whenever you create HTML file, by default, the body will have a margin of 10 px something. Okay, I'm making it 0 now. Let's check whether it is there or not. Still it is there. Margin only we given, right? Yeah, margin 8 px they given. I'll give. Just give me a minute. What the heck? Online people, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So let me check if it is recording or not. I need to check that. It's not recorded. Let's share this. Okay. So let's get back. Where it is? Where is my cursor? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So by default, where we are now, actually, where is the browser? Yeah. Yeah. So now if you see, is the body, right? Let me remove margin to the body. Margin of 0 px. So now tell me, now you are able to see clearly that, okay, my element is my parent, my element, whichever the relative element is there, inside of the parent or outside of the parent? Outside of the parent only. See, margin, never consider margin as the parent element. Okay, that margin is out of the parent only we are getting. So my element is out of the parent. Why it became like this? So if you check here, okay, the drawings we lost. Shit, again we need to draw. Okay, no issues. I'll quickly let me draw it. So if this is my screen, the same drawing I was drawing in, let's draw in a different way now. Okay. Now, which is the default layer and which is the absolute layer here? Red one is the default one. Okay. Now just imagine, let us change the color to green. And let me draw this. So, 2. Okay, leave about 2, 3 or 4. Okay, don't worry about how many. Just to understand the concept. So whenever I give an absolute, immediately what happened? My element from here it got selected. So and it came to the new layer and it became inline because it have only how much content it have, that much width only it got taken, right? So as it is empty space, this next coming element occupied that particular space here, right? So now before related element also happened the same way, but it is holding its position and it was starting to move. For example, if I give top 0, what is the top position of it? It will start from here only. If you see there, if I give top 10 px, the related element, it start from here. Okay, it will go up. If I give top bottom 10 px, it will come. Sorry, bottom if I give, it will go top. If I give top, it will come down. From this position only, it will start. But absolute is not like that. So whatever the default layer, original layer body is there, it will consider that as the parent. Okay. Now it is the absolute element is not considering this element as parent anymore. It is considering body as its parent element. Why? Because absolute element will tell that I am a powerful element and I'm not going to listen to any static element. So here div is a static element here, right? By default, not only div, any element is static element. So relative will tell that whether it is a static or any position. So I'll stay within my parent and I'll start moving from wherever the user created me. But absolute is not like that. You will tell that. So I will not consider my parent element as a parent. So I'll consider body as my parent. So when I give top 0, where it will start? It will start from the body. Okay. So if I remove margin to the, let me remove margin to this parent. So if you see, let me absolute element, right? So let me give top of 0px. Okay. And right of 0px. And let me make some changes to our code. BR points. Just I was making a space here. Okay, if you see, I got a space now, right? Now we'll give absolute element positions. We removed here as a reloaded gone top of 0px. So as soon as I give top 0px, it should be within my parent, right? But where it went? If you see, it got directly go to the body. If you see the where body started, so this is where body started, right? See, it directly went to the body and got stick at the top. So when I give left of 0, sorry, right of 0, what happens? Same thing, right side complete 0. And when I increase its value, it start moving from there. It's also same way, opposite direction is moving. However, relative is moving the opposite way, right? If I give top 10, it will move downwards 10px. If I give bottom 10, it will move upwards. Same way, absolute also working. But instead of considering this div as a parent, it is considering the body as the parent. It will tell what absolute element will tell that I listen to any position apart from the static position. So what it will do, it will check the before elements if any element is before parents, any parent is absolute or is there or not. So if there is no element is absolute, then automatically what happened? So it will directly go to the body. So now whatever you give values, it will move like top, bottom, left, right, or anything you give. From where it will start? It will start from the top of my page. And if I give, let's just imagine if I give bottom of 0px, where it will go? Bottom of the page. That means wherever I was user is able to view. There is a difference between fixed and bottom. When I give bottom 0px, how much screen the user is able to see, there only it will be there. Okay. But if you see, if I increase more, here. But when I give fixed, it will be completely fixed at the bottom position. There is a difference. Okay. So that's how my absolute will work. And one more property that you need to remember here is when you deal with relative, you can't give two different properties at a time, like top, bottom at a time or left, right at a time. Okay, you can't give, it will not take. But if you go with the absolute element, already I given bottom, right? So when I give top of 0px, what happened? So it was going to the top 0px, at the same time it was holding at the position bottom 0px. And if I give already left, I give right, I give 0px or something. So if I give left 0px, now if you see what happened, it is completely occupying. So how much my screen is there, that much it is occupied, right? See, top 0px, bottom 0px, left 0px, right, 10px. Okay, so here that's how my absolute is working. It is completely disturbing my layout. So that's why absolute will be used in very rare cases, not in all the cases. Why? Because absolute is very more powerful and it is going to affect your whole layout. Okay, so that's how my absolute will work. So always it will go out of my parent and it will not stay within the static element. So for example, now if I want to make my absolute element stay within this parent. And what if I say in that way, if I give top 0, it is going to the body, right? I don't want it to go to the body. I want it to start 0 from here. That means my parent. So what I need to do, as I mentioned, the absolute element will not listen to the position of static. Apart from static, it will listen to any position. So I can simply change my parent position to any other position or not. I can change it. So for example, if I give parent position as absolute, how it's going to be? It is going to be worse than this, because already absolute is creating worst, affecting my layout. Again, it will also affect. If I give fixed and sticky also, they will work in different way. What is the only position that will work without affecting the layout? Relative. Relative is the only position. It will not affect my layout and it will not gonna create any issue. So I'll make my parent position as position relative. So now if you go to the browser and if I reload, so my element is there here. So now what I'll do, now I'll give the same properties what we given previously. So now let me give top of where it is now. Within the parent. Why? Because what is the position of my parent now? Relative. For example, if I convert into static, where it is now? Directly went to the body. Got it? So now let me make it back to relative. Yeah. So now if I give same way all the remaining other properties, where is absolute element? So now let me give left as 0 px, left as 0 px. See, whether there is a margin or padding, nothing it cares. So what happened here? On the top of the div parent layer, it created one more duplicate layer. Same width, same height, everything. So whenever I give top 0, it will consider this top. Whenever I give left 0, it is the starting point. So when I give right 0, right of 0 px, it is taking completely. When I give bottom 0, what happens? It is going to fill my whole parent element. Got it? But why my relative element is not visible here, or static elements? Same way, as I said you, if it is not visible, it doesn't mean that the element is not there. Same way, however, bricks, putty, top of that painting, right? In the same way, the position will also have a priority. So, for example, the static, if you consider as the brick, the next coming priority will be putty. That is nothing but relative position. On top of it, next coming will be painting, absolute. On top of it, this board, if you consider it, is the fixed. On top of it, the layer will be sticky. It happens every time. So whenever you create 5 elements, and if you give 5 different positions, okay, that means 5 different elements and give 5 different positions like sticky, static, static, relative, absolute, fixed and sticky. The sticky element comes at the last bottom. On top of it, relative will come. On top of it, absolute will come. On top of it, fixed will come. On top of it, sticky will come. When the user, for example, if you create a fixed atom, fixed element, it will come on top of this absolute element because power. So first power is static, on top of it, next power is relative, on next power is absolute, next power is fixed, next power is a sticky. Got it? So that is how my absolute will work. Is it clear? Anybody have any doubts with absolute position or any relative position now? Sure. Clear? So next one will be the fixed position. So fixed position is no need to worry that much. So fixed position is also same way. It will come to the new layer. But if you see my absolute element or relative element, what happening? It is just moving however I move the screen. But fixed element is not like that. So it is always get fixed at a position where you tell. For example, if this is the element fixed at a given position, same way it will come out. So automatically it is affecting layout. So however absolute is working, same way my fixed and sticky will also work. Just don't forget it. Okay. So, but what is the only difference? For example, let us make Okay. This element, right? Fixed element. Same way, let us give how we give previously. Position as, what is the position? Did anybody know what is meant by inherent position? Now, if you see what happened, my sticky element is gone. Why? Because if you see, is my fixed element, okay, if I delete this, is there my fixed element is visible? No. Why? Because for a static or relative, sorry, for a relative element or absolute element, you can give position and you may leave it without giving directional property. Now, if you see, for this absolute element, whichever we deleted now, we didn't give in any directional properties like top, bottom, but still it is visible. But fixed is not like that. As I said you, it need to fix somewhere in the page. If you didn't mention where it need to fix, the element will be not able to accessible. Got it? So now, for fixed element, until unless you give a directional property. Now, if you see, I don't see my fixed element anywhere here, right? But as soon as I give, let me give a background to it. Background of aqua, right? Is it visible anywhere? No. But when I give top of, now is it visible or not? So fixed element will be visible only when you give a directional property. So now if you see, I can scroll down or up. Okay, let me make it live and let me make it more BRs here. Okay, on top and bottom, I was just adding more BRs. Okay, just for our reference purpose, spacing purpose. Okay. So now if you see, my fixed where it is there here. Which position? Okay, sorry. Before we are forward to reload the page. The fixed position is working as same as the absolute, but it is getting fixed at wherever the item is created. That means what happens? It came, if this is the element, same as absolute element, it came out and it became a inline element and it occupying how much space it is required. When the user is scrolling up and down, before absolute element is moving up and down, but my fixed element will not move it. It will just hold that position. So if you see, whether I move up or down, say whether I move up or down, my element is fixed. And if you see, if I give a background to it, as I said you, the power between relative and absolute every time. So though on top of it, if you see background as aqua, if you see, where is it here? It is there fixed here because as I open my inspect tool, it is not visible to you people. So if I make it side, is it there or not? Still it is there at that particular place. But absolute position is moving up and down, but my fixed element will not move like that. Okay. So if you see, if I make this fixed element top as 0, it will always fixed at the top 0 pxl and it will come on top of all the other elements. Okay. And if I give bottom as 0 px, like let me give bottom 0 px and right of 0 px. Now if you see, it got fixed here. So I may move up and down or anything I may move, but still it will be there. So where we use that position? See here. This is where I use that type of position. See, if I move up or down or I do whatever I do, okay, wherever I move, my pointer is still there at the same position or not? How I did it? I just by using the position of fixed, I was fixing my element. Got it? So if you go with the next position, nothing but static. So for example, if I want to make this element fixed in here, what we need to do? Can anybody tell me? I want to make this element fixed here in this position. So what I
Position
need to do?
relative.
whose position relative I need to give? So definitely I need to make my position relative. I commented it. If you see, just to explain, I commented. Now if I make it, okay. So as I didn't give any directional property now, it is still here. So background I'll give as aqua. And now if I give top of 0 px, is my parent position is changed? Okay, cool. Okay. Sorry, there is a small mistake with it. Okay, so apart from absolute, no other element will be considered relative positions. Okay, so absolute element only will make us to get that element within the parent, but fixed and sticky will not listen like that. It will always consider body as the main parent, always, not in a particular situation, always. So that's why when I give top, even though when I give parent relative, still it is working in the same way. If you see, when I give fixed top of 0, it is getting fixed to the screen. It is not depending on the parent position. So it is depending on the body position. Got it? Sorry for that. Okay. Yeah, what is open? Okay, so it is always depending on the body position only, not on the parent position. So that is how my fixed will work. But if you come with the relative, sticky position, let's create that. So let me comment out relative, or let me comment out fixed also, and I don't want absolute also. Okay, so if I come back, see, I have all the elements in a proper position now. Now let me go to the sticky and let me give position as, what is the position? Okay, sticky I given. If I go back, is there any change? Is my sticky element is visible or not? So let me do some more things. Let me add more breaks. Okay. Now let's get back. I have more breaks here, right? So see whether I can move up or down. I need more. Okay. So I can move my element up or down easily or not without any issue. But now let us select our sticky element. Now let me give background as, what is the background? Light green or whatever it may be. I'll give something. Some color I will give. Okay, this color is too worst. Green lemon. Okay. Now what I'll do, I didn't give any directional properties. So if you see, there is only two properties which are not affecting the layout when you give position to the element. Which are those two? Relative and sticky. What about absolute and fixed? It's affecting my layout. So now if you see, now let me change the position of my element up and down. That means I'll keep this element somewhere in the middle. Okay, that means in between the elements. Because even though if it is removed from its position, we will not know. Why? Because there is no next element to check. So now my sticky is here in the third one. Okay, where is it? Background, line, okay, I given. So now let me give top of 0 px. Now what happened? Did anybody notice what happening here? What happening? Just see carefully. It is getting sticked at the top, but until how much time it is getting sticked there? Hmm? Exactly, until my parent width is getting completed. So that is how my sticky will work. Sticky is like same as fixed only. That means in the fixing position wise, but it will not get fixed by default. Based on the user scroll, it will get fixed. Okay, so same way, if I give bottom of 0px, now if you see, my element is coming down and it got fixed. Until when? Until my parent, there is no space is left. Okay, so what happening here basically is, whenever user gives a position of sticky to any element, so when the user gives top of 0, when this element moves to the top, it will get fixed. For example, let's make a small change here. Now, let me keep this sticky out of the parent. Okay, I don't want it to be inside of my parent. Okay, I kept out of my parent. There is no parent holding it now, right? Yeah, how many times I need to write? Let me write properties here directly, okay? Background of lime green and okay. Now if you see, okay, I'm not getting any properties. Why? Because my element is inside the parent nested, right? But there is no parent div here, so I need to keep outside. So the here is my element. So now for this sticky element, I'll give top of 0px. Now tell me what happens. Can anybody tell me? Same way, my element is getting sticked, but I'm able to scroll or not? I'm able to scroll down also. So why it happening? Because before my parent is holding particular width 200px or 300px. So once that width is clear, that height is cleared, my element should move away because it is inside a parent. Now my element is outside of parent and there is no particular parent holding it. It is a free element now. So automatically what happens now, whenever I scroll up, it will stick top at their position as soon as it became top of 0px. For example, instead of top 0px, let me give top of 100px. Okay, make it 100. Now tell me what happens. Tell me what happens. So whenever my cursor reaches 100px from the top, see, my element got fixed. So how much space is there between these two? Where we can see this type of behavior. So where I kept it.
Moving forward, now we going to do manual processing. Slowly but surely people are learning yeah, how to automate unit testing. Last but not least, consider compatibility of multiple devices. That is your responsibility to ensure that my daily work value all available gadgets in the market. Do that. Phone, mobiles, tablets, notebooks, laptop, printer desktop, smart TV, and your phone.
Load signal.
These are the best practices that we must follow. Okay, watch this video and be ready. Because I'm doing a task for you guys and go to the video.
Okay, let me go to the Flipkart only.
Same demo class, and I'm going to organize a project, and I'm going to share with
So if you see here, Abhay, close.
So I have some for today.
Yeah, here. So if you see, there is a default header on the top, and there is one more element here. So I want this to be accessible to the user every time. I want it to be able to, user should be able to use it every time. But I can't keep it every time. I can't use the fixed position. Why? Because if I use fixed, it will be fixed here only, right? So that's where I use the sticky. Sticky, what I'll do, I'll give top of 0px. So when your user scrolls up and when this element reaches top 0, it will get fixed there. Okay. And when the user comes down, whenever the top 0 becomes even 1, not 0.01 px is increased, what happens? Automatically, what happens? My navbar will come down, got it to its position. So same thing happening here. So when I give top 100 px, my element is moves aram say like other elements, but when it reaches 100 px, it will get fixed there. Okay, same thing happens with the bottom also. If I give bottom of 100 px, if you see, when I scroll up, nothing happens. It is aram say going up and however it wants. But when it reaches 100 px of bottom, it got fixed. It is coming now. It is coming out of the original layer and it is moving in a free layer. Remaining elements are in the static layer. They are moving in the backward. Got it? So now if you see, each and every element is going backside of it only, right? Why? Because as I told you, position matters. Okay. First one is static, relative, absolute, fixed, and sticky. So this is how my positions works in CSS. Is it clear? So everybody clear with the positions topic? Anybody have any doubts with this topic? So now you are able to understand how each topic, each position will work, right? Clear? Online people, anybody have any doubts, guys? Jyotirajan, Komala, Manikanta, Ravi.
Yes, sir.
So all are clear, right?
Sir.
Okay, cool then. So I'll try to give you an update, share a layout in the group. Try to create that layout. It's a overlapping layout. Okay, not normal layout that we did previously. Try to complete that layout by using the position topic today. Okay, and also complete whatever the topic we said, like what we discussed, pseudo classes, right? Try to check pseudo states and elements, whichever we discussed apart from what we left. Check all those. Clear? Thank you.
Need privacy for 10 minutes.
Sure. I'll take water and then. Thank you.
Hey, hello everyone. Online team.
Hello, sir.
Hey, my name is Murli. I'm here to check about the program, how the program is going on. Okay, just give me 1 minute.
Recording is going.